Dhyana is the seventh stage of the eight-limbed yoga, and it is a direct continuation and deepening of dharana. In his sutras, Patanjali describes dhyana as a stream of consciousness directed toward an object without interruption. Without interruption does not refer to a specific time interval. Meditation arises on its own, and an interruption signifies its end. It is impossible to return to this state through any act of will, but this is not necessary. The state of effortless ease is remembered immediately and forever. This ease comes very unexpectedly and very briefly the first time. As a rule, a thought immediately arises. How wonderful, or how beautiful. And this very thought is what interrupts the meditation. However, a yogi who has practiced dharana for a long time already understands how being distracted by a thought disrupts their concentration. The difference here is that this state arises on its own, and now the task is simply to remain in this state without getting distracted. The longer and more deeply you are able to maintain your focus without distractions, the more likely you are to transition from dharana to dhyana. This is a qualitative shift, not a quantitative one. You'll have to spend tens or hundreds of hours in concentration before that very moment arrives. However, from that point on, you'll undoubtedly know what to do, or rather, what not to do. It's like the entry point into meditation. You relax while remaining focused on everything at once and on nothing in particular. Silence settles in your mind, and your breathing becomes lighter and more natural. But you must remember that silence and lightness are consequences or markers. No need to try to reproduce them with effort. Before this, you set aside special time, sought out the best posture, and used familiar audio recordings. Now you can practice without interrupting your social activities. Your practice will begin to integrate into your daily life. After the first few seconds of practice, the desire to extend these moments and experience them more often arises naturally. No additional motivation is really needed, since being in a mindful state is enjoyable in and of itself. It's not that the world becomes somehow different, but its details begin to be perceived more vividly. The taste of food, the sounds around you, the sensations of walking, the feel of water, every action becomes fuller and more intense. Even the most mundane activities become opportunities for meditation, and at the same time, their quality improves. For example, when walking in a state of flow, the constant tension caused by stress disappears, muscles relax, movements become smoother and more efficient, and the body straightens up. Routine tasks such as washing dishes or cleaning are usually perceived as a chore that takes up time and energy but brings no pleasure. However, when, instead of mentally resisting the task or getting distracted by other thoughts, you fully immerse yourself in the process, the absence of distractions allows you to perform the task more efficiently and thoroughly. These tasks cease to be unpleasant and become a form of active meditation. The monotony of the actions, combined with full attention, can bring a surprising sense of calm and even satisfaction. After completing a task like this while in a state of flow, instead of the usual feeling of "it's finally over," you experience a sense of deep satisfaction and productivity. Not only do you achieve a tangible result, such as clean dishes or a tidy room, but you also experience positive emotions, or at the very least, you didn't feel any negative emotions during the process itself. The flow state allows you to reframe routine and physical actions, transforming them from boring chores or mindless movements into sources of focus, relaxation, and even pleasure. Furthermore, simple tasks rich in concrete sensory experiences, ones that don't require complex thinking, analysis, or decision-making, serve as excellent anchors for our attention. It is precisely through such simple activities that the mind develops a meditative state. Our minds often resist attempts to concentrate, especially if the task seems boring or difficult. And when it comes to complex intellectual tasks, maintaining focus is an extremely difficult challenge, especially when you're tired or emotionally distracted by unrelated matters. You won't be able to force your way through such tasks with sheer persistence. You might end up racking your brain without achieving the desired result. In tasks that don't have clear goals, such as finding the right answer, writing a specific text, or conducting a complex data analysis, you aren't weighed down by the need to get the right result, and you can calmly immerse yourself in the process itself. There's no need to worry about whether you're walking correctly or sitting properly on public transportation while looking out the window. You can either let your mind wander to unrelated thoughts or immerse yourself in the process of simply being. For example, when you drive home from work in a meditative state versus when you're lost in your thoughts, those are two different journeys home. If thoughts about work are swirling in your head, your workday is still going on. Constant pressure, deadlines, and social interactions cause mental fatigue, and mulling over all of this outside of work hours only exacerbates it, draining your body and mind. But if your mind is quiet, then your rest has already begun. And this isn't just a waste of time, it's actually a very effective form of rest. The brain shifts from a state of high beta activity, characteristic of active thinking and problem solving, to calmer alpha and theta waves, typically observed in a relaxed, waking state, thereby replenishing its energy reserves. In alpha mode, the brain sends a signal to the adrenal glands to slow down the production of stress hormones. This is a very important point because cortisol is the main energy drain. When its levels drop, the body stops working itself to the bone. There is a shift from fight or flight mode to rest and digest mode. But the most interesting thing happens in the theta state. The hypothalamus stimulates the production of somatropin, growth hormone, which is responsible for protein synthesis and the repair of muscle fibers, as well as dihydroepiandrosterone, the so-called mother hormone, which boosts overall vitality and slows down aging. Cells restore the balance of sodium and potassium in cell membranes, which is crucial for nerve cells to effectively transmit impulses. It is precisely in the theta state that the brain archives data and cleanses neurons of toxic metabolic byproducts, beta amyloids, which restores mental energy. At the same time, you develop your meditative capacity by training your concentration. In the same way, you can practice Dhyana, for example, while waiting in line or in a waiting room, and waiting as such will essentially disappear from your life. This useless and nerve-wracking activity will be replaced by meditation. Waiting is a state in which the mind is in the future, while the body is stuck in the present, and this disconnect creates quite a bit of stress. When you're waiting, your focus is on the goal, whether it's the end of the line or the arrival of a train, while the present is perceived as an annoying distraction and wasted time. Most people spend their waiting time scrolling through social media or mulling over problems, which only amplifies mental noise and drains their resources. However, by setting aside the concept of a goal and shifting your focus to the process, you gain a free laboratory for training your mind. This is time that has already been taken from you by external circumstances, but you can certainly turn a stressful situation into a recovery session. Meditating in a waiting room doesn't require closed eyes or the lotus position. Once you've mastered the skill, the external form becomes unnecessary, just as an experienced driver doesn't need to remember which pedal is under their foot. In a waiting room, closed eyes may look strange or even unsafe, but your ability to gaze with a defocused gaze should already have been honed in the previous stage of Dhyana. The skill developed during the pratyahara stage allows you to be aware of your spine and release tension in your jaw and abdomen regardless of your posture. A beginner is bothered by the noise at the airport or conversations in line, while a master uses this noise as an object of meditation. While everyone around you is scrolling through their smartphones trying to kill time, you're bringing that time to life. The only catch that hinders this effective substitution is that despite all its benefits and effectiveness, this practice quickly becomes boring to the mind, and the mind really hates being bored. Much of this is due to the way the brain works, constantly comparing incoming sensory information with existing memories and expectations. When an event or information significantly differs from what the brain anticipated or knows, dopaminergic pathways are activated, sparking interest and heightened attention. The brain recognizes this as a potential opportunity for learning or survival. Conversely, if an event is highly predictable, repetitive, and lacks new information, it does not promise any visible reward, and dopamine levels remain low, causing the brain to lose motivation to maintain attention and redirect resources towards seeking something newer or more meaningful. By default, the brain prefers an optimal level of cognitive load, not too easy to avoid boredom and not too difficult to prevent stress. If the event is perceived as a means to achieve a goal, gain knowledge, develop skills, or enhance social status, the brain marks it as important and interesting. Otherwise, it quickly dismisses it as irrelevant and boring. Events that evoke strong emotional reactions, both positive and certain negative ones. For instance, when watching a gripping thriller, capture and hold attention. Neutral events, which do not elicit any significant emotions, are easily classified as boring. With these basic settings, it's only natural that the mind constantly wants to get distracted by thoughts that seem more important or emotionally charged. It strives to shift its focus to thoughts about the past, the future, self-analysis, worries, or fantasies. The practitioner's task here, on the contrary, is to remain in this boredom for as long as possible. This task is extremely simple. It doesn't require coming up with additional algorithms or studying any materials. All of that was necessary earlier to understand how to enter a meditative state. But to remain in that state, no additional knowledge is needed. What's required is direct personal experience gained during each such practice session. The more often you practice bringing your attention back, the stronger this muscle becomes, and the better you become at recognizing the moment when your attention has wandered. This practice strengthens cognitive flexibility and allows your brain to effectively block internal and external distractions, such as notifications, noise, or intrusive thoughts, and to stay focused on your goal even when solving complex problems. Complex intellectual tasks often involve routine, tedious, or frustrating steps. A trained mind will not get distracted or give up at the first sign of difficulty or boredom, but will be able to continue working while remaining calm and focused. If a problem isn't solved right away, this training will, once again, help you avoid getting irritated, since you'll be able to notice the thoughts that precede that irritation. Of course, none of this means that you'll suddenly gain some kind of superpowers and be able to effortlessly handle every task you take on. The process of self-development is complex and not always consistent, but if it were as straightforward as leveling up a character in a simple RPG, it would get boring very quickly. On the other hand, your life isn't a chain of results. It's a continuous process consisting of both momentous events and daily routines. The practice of dhyana teaches you, on the one hand, to take pleasure in every action you perform, and on the other hand, to perform them in a state of maximum concentration, thereby increasing your effectiveness. Once you've learned to stay in the flow while waiting, you can begin applying this skill to simple tasks, then to complex, multifaceted ones. In essence, your entire life becomes a practice, and the practitioner, a mature master who can no longer complain about not understanding something, has no choice but to act.